The counties are shires of Scotland, are geographic subdivisions of Scotland established in the Middle Ages. They ceased to be used for local government purposes after 1975 under the Local Government Act 1973. Today, local government in Scotland is based upon council areas, which sometimes incorporate county names, but frequently have vastly different boundaries. Counties continue to be used for the purpose of lieutenancy and land registration purposes, though the lieutenancy areas are not entirely identical. Origin: sheriffdoms are shires. Malcolm III appears to have introduced sheriffs as part of a policy of replacing previous forms of government with Norman feudal structures. This policy was continued by Edgar Alexander I and in particular David I. David completed the division of the country into sheriffdoms by the conversion of existing thanedoms. The earliest sheriffdom south of the Forth which we know of for certain is Haddingtonshire, which is named in a charters of 1139 as Haddingtonshire and in another of 1141 as Haddingtonshire. Stirlingshire appears in a charter of 1150 under the name Stryleshire. The shires of the Highlands were completed only in the reign of King Charles I. In 1305 Edward I of England, who had deposed John Balliol, issued an ordinance for the government of Scotland. The document listed the 23 shires then existing and either appointed new sheriffs or continued heritable sheriffs in office. Note A. Gospatrick was mentioned as sheriff in a number of charters of Earl David. The shire was not listed in the ordinance, and in 1305 appears to have been partly under the jurisdiction of the Sheriff of Selkirk, with the remainder comprised in the constabularies of Jedburgh and Roxburgh under the jurisdiction of the Constable of Berwick. The shire was one of those surrendered to Edward III of England in 1334. The remaining shires were formed either by the territorial expansion of the Kingdom of Scotland, or by the subdivision of existing sheriffdoms. Many of the new shires had highly irregular boundaries or detached parts as they united the various possessions of the heritable sheriffs. See point 1326. Argyll. Lordship subdued by Alexander II in 1222. Norwegian claims over the area finally ended in 1266. First record of appointment of sheriff dates from 1326. 1369, Kirkcudbright formed when area between rivers Nith and Cree granted to Archibald the Grim. Archibald appointed a steward to administer the area, hence it became a stewartry. See point 1388. Bute. The islands formed part of Kintyre district of Argyll. A heritable sheriff was appointed to the shire in 1388. 1402 Renfrew, separated from the shire of Lanark by Robert III. 1503 Ross formed from part of Argyll by Act of 1503. The barony of Tarbet was annexed to Cromarty in 1685, but later returned. 1503 Caithness, separated from the shire of Inverness by Act of 1503 during the reign of James IV. Under the legislation, the sheriff of Caithness was to sit at Dornoch and Wick, and the area of the sheriffdom was to be identical to that of the diocese of Caithness. 1581 Orkney was erected into a lordship with the right of sheriffship. It was annexed to the crown in 1612, although the term lordship continued to be applied to the area. 1633 Sutherland separated from Inverness. Note B. In 1583 the Earl of Huntly, hereditary sheriff of Inverness, granted the Earl of Sutherland jurisdiction over the sheriffdom of Sutherland and Strathnaver. This was only the southeastern area of the later county, with Hallidale River forming the boundary. The Shire was formed in 1631 by Crown Writ of Charles I, severing Sutherland from Inverness. The new county comprised the earldom of Sutherland along with Assynt and the baronies between Ross and Caithness. Dornoch was appointed the head borough of the Shire. The writ was confirmed by the Parliament of Scotland in 1633. The 1707 Act of Union and the ending of heritable jurisdictions. Following the union of Scotland with England, the government began bringing Scotland's local governance into line with the rest of Great Britain. The full machinery of county government was not immediately established, largely due to the fact that the office of Sheriff of Stewart had become hereditary in certain families in the majority of sheriffdoms. At the accession of George II, 22 sheriffs were hereditary. 3 were appointed for life and only 8 held office at the pleasure of the monarch. The heritable sheriffdoms were Argyll, Bute, Banff, Caithness, Clackmannan and Cromarty, Dumbarton, Dumfries, Elgin, Fife, Kinross, Kirkcudbright, Linlithgow, Nairn, Orkney and Amp, Zetland, Peebles, Renfrew, Roxburgh, Selkirk, Sutherland, Stirling and Wigtown. Those appointed for life were Perth, Forfar and Ayr. Those held at pleasure were Aberdeen, Berwick, Edinburgh, Haddington, Inverness, Kincardine, Lanark and Ross. Following the unsuccessful Jacobite Rising of 1745, the government took the opportunity of overhauling county government. The Heritable Jurisdictions Act 1747 revested the government of the shires in the Crown, compensating those office holders who were displaced. The Sheriffs Act 1747 reduced the office of Sheriff Principal to a largely ceremonial one, with the Sheriff Depute, a sheriff substitute appointed to each county shire a stewartry. 12 of the smallest counties were paired to form sheriffdoms, a process of amalgamation that was to continue until the 20th century. In 1794 Lord Lieutenants were appointed to each county, and in 1797 county militia regiments were raised, bringing Scotland into line with England, Wales and Ireland. Names and terminology. Names in official documents. Shires were referred to as the Shire of X, rather than X-Shire. The latter was more common in general usage. Thus in parliamentary proceedings one may find, for example, a heading referring to Act for the Sheriffdom of Dumbarton, but the text, the Savine Kirkus to Dumbarton Schyr. The first accurate county maps of Scotland appear in the late 17th century and contain a first-hand record of shire names. John Adair gives the names of Midlothian, East Lothian, Twadall and West Lothian. The 18th century county maps of Herman Moll preferred to keep the shire suffix a separate word, as for example, Berwickshire, Roxburghshire, the Shire of Selkirk otherwise known as Ettrick Forest, and in the north to Murray, Inverness-shire, Aberdeenshire, Banffshire, Ross-shire. The map of Boswell's and Johnson's A Journey to the Western Islands of Scotland gives shire to every one shown, including Angusshire and Fifeshire. Several shires have alternative names of long standing. These include Angus, Forfarshire, East Lothian, Haddingtonshire, Kincardineshire, Mearns, Midlothian, Edinburghshire, Moray, Elginshire, Peeblesshire, Tweeddale, Roxburghshire, Teviotdale, Selkirkshire, Ettrick Forest, West Lothian, Linlithgowshire. In Scotland, as in England and Wales, the terms shire and county have been used interchangeably, with the latter becoming more common in later usage. Today, county is more commonly used, although strictly speaking counties no longer exist in Scotland. Shire is seen as being a more poetic or archaic variant. Counties until 1890 It may be noted that the map depicts a large number of exclaves physically detached from the county that they were politically deemed to be part of. Shires borders, a particularly fragmentary example, were achieved as late as 1685, although at the time the word county was not applied to the sheriffdom. Counties from 1890 to 1975. Local government. For the 17th century, the shires started to be used for local administration apart from judicial functions. In 1667, commissioners of supply were appointed in each sheriffdom to collect the land tax. The commissioners eventually assumed other duties in the county. In 1858, police forces were established in each county under the Police Act 1857. It should be noted, however, that burghs were largely outside the jurisdiction of county authorities. Under the Local Government Act 1889, 34 county councils were formed. The areas governed by these councils, referred to as administrative counties, resembled the traditional Shires of Scotland, but not entirely. Exclaves were abolished, with the exception of one exclave of Dunbartonshire. Ross-shire and Cromartyshire were merged into Ross and Cromarty, and 4 cities, Aberdeen, Dundee, Edinburgh and Glasgow, were made counties in their own right. These counties of cities were periodically expanded as their urban areas spread further and further into the surrounding countryside. In general, they were still considered part of the wider geographical county. For instance, Glasgow was still reckoned part of Lanarkshire, though it was no longer within the jurisdiction of Lanark County Council. Under the Local Government Act 1929, 2 pairs of councils were combined with each other to form the joint county councils of Perth and Amp, Kinross and Moray and Amptnairn. Though governed by the same council, each county remained nominally independent from the other. In 1963, the government published a white paper which proposed a reduction in the number of counties from 33 to between 10 and 15. A process of consultation between county councils and officials from the Scottish office was begun to effect the amalgamations. Following a change of government, it was announced in 1965 that a more comprehensive and authoritative review of local government areas would be undertaken. In 1966, a Royal Commission on Local Government in Scotland, chaired by Lord Wheatley, was appointed. The Commission's report in 1969 recommended the replacement of the counties with larger regions. In 1970, another change in government control was followed by the publication of a white paper in 1971 implementing the Commission's reforms in a modified form. The abolition of counties for local government purposes was enacted by the Local Government Act 1973, with counties playing no part in local government after the 16th of May 1975, being replaced by regions and districts. Local government was reorganized again under the Local Government etc. Act 1994, with the regions and districts being replaced by the currently existing council areas. These councils are unitary, meaning they undertake all local governance within their area, though community councils do operate in several towns.